Hello, my name is Myung-Kyun Kang. Today I'm going to present how the medical MLLM fails, a study on visual grounding in medical imaging. This paper is published at ICAR 2026, uh, and I'm the presenter, Myung-Kyun Kang, MK. So general purpose multimodal large language model have shown strong performance across a wide range of tasks. And however, the performance of medical MLLMs in zero-shot setting remains suboptimal. So why do medical MLLMs struggles with medical image interpretation? So this paper raised this major research question. So let's break down the failure. First, is this the failure in semantic grounding? For instance, due to the lack of medical knowledge-based reasoning. For instance, if the model don't know what is the meaning of pneumonia or tuberculosis, and that results the failure of the models. Another failure can be a failure in visual grounding. So if the model lacks the fine-grained visual feature in the image, for instance, if the model cannot locate where the legend is located in the image, then the model fails to predict correctly. So basically, we can break down the failure into two different scopes. So how about let's validate the visual grounding of MLLMs? First, how about in the general domains? So this author first visualized the attention of the general MLLM and the general images. So if there is a one image and we can ask the model what color is the bench, and the general model correctly locate the bench in the image. When you see another image, and although there is a very small, the oven is very small in this image, but when we ask the model to answer the question, is an oven shown in this picture? And still the model accurately point out where the oven is. But let's move on to our medical imaging and the model that trained on medical data set. So here is the MR image, and we ask, is there evidence of fatty infiltration in the liver? And we visualize the attention of the model of Huata and lava met, etc. But those attention map is less relevant compared to what we generally observe in the natural images. Similar to another medical image, this is the skin date image, and although we directly ask where the skin lesion visible in this image, but the attention of the model is very relevant, then they do not point out the skin region in this image. So the most advanced models relies attention on the irrelevant regions, and highlighting the visual grounding in medical MLLM is less inadequate. But hold on a second. First, how the model visualize the attention of MLLMs, and because this paper is highly reliant on previous attention visualization work. So before I go into details of this paper, I'm going to explain more details about the previous research. So this work is highly relying on the previous work called MLLMs Knows Where to Look. And this paper raised this research question in the beginning. So we generally anticipate the powerful model such as lava recognize object regardless of the size of the object in the image. But is this really true? So the author first showed this kind of images. So here is an image, and we ask a question, are there any street sign in the picture? And human easily recognize there is a street sign, although the street sign is super small, but model output the answer incorrectly. So when we see the probability of yes and no, when we only provide this original image as an input, and there is a much more higher probability to no rather than a yes. But simply zooming into the street sign the probability goes up. And in the end, in the later stage, this kind of cropped image, the probability of yes goes really high. Let's see another example again. So we ask the question, what kind of bird is this? And this is the original image that we are going to be analyzed. In the really, when we use this whole image, they misclassify a bird species. The correct answer is correct, but they just output a wrong answer, such as white. But when we zoom into the bird region like this, there is a high probability to predict the egret rather than predicting as a white. So, which means the model gives better answer simply by zooming in into the image. This suggests the model knows knowledge about what the bird and what the kind of the bird is, but lack of perception result to predict incorrectly. But we need to also ask for some more questions. We need to break it down again. So what lag causes the failure? So first, is that the localization failure? So is that the model cannot find the object in the image, and as a result, they failed to answer the correct question? Or perception failure, which means they know, the model knows, Lava knows where the object is, but cannot recognize the details, and which means they just don't understand what that is. So the key question, whether the model is looking in the wrong place or they know where the object is, but failing to understand what it sees. So this paper first measure where the model is looking in the image. So here is some kind of background that we have for this analysis. So this all experiment is multimodal, particularly vision domain. So there is an image and the question and the large language model, which consists of the vision encoder projection layer and the language models. And obviously, they output a text answer based on the given text query and image. First, as we always do, to calculate the attention, first, this model calculates the attention to token level. They first calculate the answer to token level attention. So what that means is, let's see this example. So if there is a sequence, if there is a sequence input into the model, for instance, the girl and the boy walk home, that, and if there is a subsequent word she follows after this sentence, there is a higher attention value assigned to the previous token, such as girl, rather than a boy. How to calculate the attention? This is just simple value that after the softmax, what we already acknowledged. And let's see in this case, if there is a he after this sentence, when you compare the attention value compared to the she and he, in he cases, they assign high value to the boys rather than a girl. So this indicate just parsing the attention value of the model inference, we can say what previous token are significant to generate current answer token. And after that, we need to map it back to the token to image level. And what we normally, we already know, but let's just recap how we process the image and fed into the LLM to make the output. First, generally, this model consists of LLM and projection layer and the vision encoder. And generally, the vision encoder is a VIT model. And what we normally do, we just patchify, just crop this image into the multiple patches and fed into the vision encoder to extract the patch level embedding. And the patch level embedding fed into the projection layer and directly pass it to the LLM. So basically, if we can calculate what attention value assigned to the previous token is directly assigned to the where the model look at it. For instance, if the answer to token attention assign high value to the index 4, which indicate the model see this location more significant than the other location. However, in general cases, such as after the lava, we normally use the simple multi-layer perceptron. So like a primitive model such as Blip, they use some kind of special projection layer to bridge the vision encoder and the LLM. But in general cases, this is just identity matrix. So we just merge those two attention, and finally we can get an answer to image level attention, which image means the spatial level attention. However, how can we remove the inherent bias in attention? Which means to address this problem, the author proposed a relative attention. This is really simple idea. So not only calculate the attention based on the target query, for instance, what player number is this football player? This is the target inquiry, and we anticipate assign high attention value into the number. But when we just directly calculate this attention value using this target inquiry only, we cannot discard the inherent biased attention that model inherently have. So to remove that, the author used really neutral term to calculate the inherent bias, and they just simply divide it to the target inquiries. After that, and they just call it this as a relative attention. As a result, we can extract the attention that relevant to the targeting question. So this is the qualitative result of the relative attention. And as you can see, the model quite accurately locate where the that is well aligned to the question that we provided to the models. But before we move on to the next steps, the most people in this audience raise this question: are all layers suitable for saliency? So I wrote down this letter in the previous slide, but I do not highlight it. But actually, that is not true. So here is one of the graph, and the author calculate the attention ratio and the layer. What is the meaning of the attention ratio means is that how much the MLLM attend to the ground truth box. So the model used some data set that consists of image, question, and paired bounding boxes, and they calculate the attention and compare the attention with the ground truth bounding box, whether that is well aligned or not. And first observation is not all layers are good suitable for the saliency, particularly in the early stage of the layer is not, it's very not aligned. Additionally, in the end stage of the layer is also not aligned. But in the middle part, such as layer 15 or 14, is really well aligned to the ground truth boxes. So first, this model indicates not all layers are good, but we need to use certain layer that is well aligned to the ground truth bounding box, which means good for the salience. An additional observation is that is not only valid for the correct answer cases. Although the model incorrectly respond the answer, but still the attention is well aligned to the ground truth boxes. So let's analyze the image again. So here is some qualitative example of the failure cases. So for this visualization, we use Lava 1.5, and here is the example and corresponding question. What player number in the football player? Unfortunately, the model failed to predict correctly. So the correct answer is 19, but the model answered 21. Let's move on to the another cases. What phone number can person call? Although and the model answer wrong, but interestingly, the model quite point the correct location where they have to look at it. The final example, what is the color of the bicycle? And although they answer it wrong, for instance, in this case, they just say silver, but they quite accurately point very small object in the image. And they quite assign high value, attention value to the certain location, which means they just fail to understand what it sees, but at least they knows where to look at it. So based on the observation, the author proposed really simple but effective model. So the basic idea is not only provide the original image into the model, they further crop images and provide it to the LLM to generate answers. But the major problem is where to crop is not it's not there's various way to crop certain location, but as shown in the previous slide, when we use the attention value to decide where to crop, and by using the attention value to decide where to crop and use this cropped patches as well as the original image, and the model gonna be answer more accurately. So here is an example. What is the color of the clock? So the model provides these images and calculate the attention, and additionally crop this region and provide this cropped image as an input again. And previous model failed to answer correctly, but after the cropped image is fed into the model, they accurately correct as a C, which means the green. So we just glimpsed how the MLLM visualize the attention and how the previous method proposed to simply address those kind of problem. So then let's go back to our cases. And first observation is that compared to the natural domains, in medical domains, unfortunately, the attention is less relevant and not aligned what we normally anticipate for the natural images. So to address this problem, they also propose a new method. But before proposing the novel method, they also analyze a few things. First, how to quantify the visual grounding with attention in medical domains. An additional thing is that to select the most suitable salience layer, for instance, like layer 15 of the Lava 1.5, what data set should be used for the analysis, and by using the quantifying mechanism that just proposed in this paper. So let's first see how they quantify visual grounding with attention. So they use attention ratio. This is identical what it used in the previous paper. The idea is really simple. If there is an image and we have a ground truth bounding box, and this red dot can be considered as an attention map. And if the value goes up, if there is attention within the bounding box, and if the attention goes outside of the bounding box, the value just goes down. However, this does not distinguish between the attention map that is more suitable. For instance, this attention ratio only consider the attention within the bounding box or the out of the bounding box. They does not consider how that is the attention map is similar to the segmentation map that we normally anticipated. So to calculate those things, they first use K divergence and Janssen-Simons divergence to calculate the attention that much more suitable for the medical domains. And another question that we raised before, what data set is used for this analysis? Unfortunately, the author claimed the existing medical VQA dataset is ill-suited to calculate the visual grounding. For instance, these are the examples. So this is the example of the previous medical VQA dataset, and they ask question like this: is this a sagittal plane? Is the modality is shown what modality is shown in this image. But asking the modality, asking the plane, does not require to ground certain location in this image. This is like a semantic feature extraction related work, and by calculating some attention value using this question does not make sense at all. And let's move on to the another cases. In medical domains, people are normally asked a question, is this image normal? What diseases are included in this picture? And what treats the most severe disease in this image? However, although to answer this question, the model need to know where is the lesion and how does the lesion look like. But but to answer those questions is require multiple level of reasoning and requires medical knowledge to make the correct response. So this is a little bit, there is some gap between direct visual grounding, what we see in the general domain that I showed in before. To address that, they construct a novel data set. They first collect 40 publicly available medical image segmentation dataset and filtered out 13K samples and constructed 28K image bounding box question triplet. And basically, they construct two levels of questions. And what they did is they first ask the model to distinguish the semantic grounding and visual grounding and they just build this prompt with a clinician and just keep refining it. Finally, they build this kind of data set. For instance, as I mentioned, they build this data set using the segmentation, which contains the segmentation mask. And we can simply convert the segmentation map into the bounding box. And they design this kind of question by using the modality-specific prompt. The small thing that I just mentioned is that they make this prompt per modality because as I showed in the previous slide, there is a multiple modality they incorporate in this data set. They build each prompt for CT, MR, ultrasound, X-ray, etc. to construct this prompt and build this data set. After the construction, they conduct they analyze the attention of the current state-of-the-art medical MLLMs. So here's are the lists they use for the experiment, and they test two levels of question. First, a localization question. For instance, asking the model to identify specific organ or lesion in the image. Another question type is attribute level question. For instance, like asking the size of the lesion, shape of the lesion, or heterogeneity of the abnormality, like those kind of questions. And as a generic prompt, they write the general description of the image. And for medical image dataset, they just use their proposed dataset. And for natural image dataset, they use MS COCO. So here is the first evaluation result of the attention using the dataset they showed and the metric they proposed. So first, compared to the natural domain, what we observed in the previous paper, there's a weaker alignment between the attention distribution and the ground truth annotation. Note that although this model, Huata, are trained for medical data set, and there is two data set for this evaluation, one for the medical, the other is nature scene, which means MS COCO. And there's really low attention ratio value, and also very low value for the K divergence compared to what we normally observe in what we normally anticipated. And also this kind of phenomena happen to the different type of question for which I mentioned as attribute type question. So basically there is a weaker alignment compared in the medical domains. And this is what we normally observe for the natural images. And as I mentioned, LabAV version 1.5 is only trained for the natural domains, natural images, and we can see really sharp, like a peak in the certain layers. However, in in medical domains, we cannot see very sharp peak in these images. So based on the observation, um, still the model trying to refine the attention to improve the model performance. So there is a two-step to refine the attention. First, we fed image and corresponding question into the image, and we calculate the all attention value of the LLM has. And for this calculation, they separately aggregate the value of each attention head. For instance, even though there is a single multi-head attention, if there is a 16 multi-head is used, and we can get a 16 different attention head. After that, based on the previous observation, we can still select like a layer 22, like a 23, and we just aggregate three value to ranked which which layer provide more suitable for saliency. So they select top 20 attention heads value, and after that, because it's too vague compared to what natural images see. So instead of cropping, they suppress using the percentile value. So in this experiment, they use 50% percentile to mask out the irrelevant attention values. After they remove the irrelevant attention value using the percentile value, such as 50%, they just build a masking. And after that, in step 2, they re-input the image and the question. And during the MLLM prediction, they assign this mask into the MLLM, and which to generate to focus more relevant location of the image, and as a result, the model predict much more correct answer. But for clarification, this model during the step 2 evaluation setting, they just mask out the using the attention mask, not discarding the token, such as what we normally do for the efficient inference. So they just mask out, and then they need to process all the tokens they fed into the models. Here is some qualitative case. So when we provide this image and the question, and here is the original like attention map based on the top K, And after we apply the percentile threshold and only ask the model to use these locations patches to, they just mask out zero assigned mask as a 0, and they make a prediction. Because the model focused on more clinically relevant location that is well aligned to the question. So in the beginning, the model output as a no, which is wrong, but after the attention refinement, they correctly respond as a yes. And when we move on to the another cases, they first fail to answer no, but actually the correct we should answer as a yes. But after the attention refinement, they output the correct. They are much more focusing on the clinically relevant region and yielding a correct predictions. Okay, so let's see more quantitatively on the medical VQA experiment. They conducted on multiple VQA datasets such as VQA RAT and SLAC PMC VQA and PATH VQA, and their method is rely on the Huata GPT. So first of all, although Huata GPT shows really high performance, applying their method on Huata GPT further increased the performance of the Huata GPT. When they also applied to the MMMU dataset, they further achieve improved accuracy compared to the original AutoGPT. And note that this is the example of the MLLM health and medicine subset benchmark. And also for the another data set like OmniMed VQA, this data set is like asking a similar question, but using the multiple choice setting. So what image modality using to capture this image, and answer can be X-ray. So they further improve the accuracy of the AutoGPT by just simply refining the attention value that I said before. Here is the ablation studies. This ablation study first highlight that top 20, selecting the top 20 attention shows the optimal performance for the model prediction. And they also, so which means the top K is, although there is a multiple layers in here, additionally, there is a multiple heads within each layers, and they use top 20 multi-head level, attention head level to calculate the attention, and the top 20 works the best. And another ablation experiment, they also exclude more percentile or the less percentile, etc. They did experiment, and finally they have found that 50% works the best. So which means how many attention band we should left for the to build the mask is also they also did some ablation for that percentile values. But here is some failure cases. For instance, for these cases, are there preliminary finding, which means, is there any lung abnormality existing in this image? And the correct answer is no. But the original attention is also not very relevant. And after the refinement, if the original attention is not good enough, after refinement does not solve at all. And another case is the model should look at the label location. However, the initial attention is very vague and irrelevant. After the refinement, it does not help at all. So still the model is required to at least some capability of knows where to look at it. But if some task they don't know to look correctly, then although they refine the attention, they do not improve any performance. And another following question can be, if there is a question related to the normal, where model should look at it, is not settled. So this kind of thing can be a research topic we can address in the future. So here's our the takeaway. So first, in general domain, the models know where to look at it, but fail to understand. So simply cropping this zoom in certain location can improve the model performance significantly because model always already know where to look. Unfortunately, in medical domain, model fails even where to look at it. And the first model, we need a model that require where we should look at it, and if there is a further if there is a lack of understanding of the small location, we can further develop some method later. But the problem is initially the model fail where to look at it. This is the problem. And the author also highlight the current medical VQA benchmark. Their question is so vague and maybe problematic for grounding. So to analyze the grounding effectively, some kind of better designed data sets are required. And although there's a lot of problems, they refining attention helps the model to where to look and more where to look, which means they can look more clinically relevant location and region, resulting in improved performance in the multiple medical VQA benchmark data set. So this is the all of slide that I present for today. and I'm happy to answer any question. Thank you.